Namaste and welcome to Tridevi Chamunda Mandir in Denver, Colorado, Amajit. And I'm so glad that you could join us this evening for our Tuesday satsang and the first installment of a new series, Goddesses of Trika Tantra. And we're going to begin with the first of four goddesses, the goddess Apara. And I'll explain her name very shortly. I'd like to start out with some announcements. So this coming Friday, 7 o'clock, will be the second installment of our 12 Kalis of the Krama lineage series. Be doing some kind of fire puja around it. Actually, we're going to be doing a mini fire puja tonight as well. So our Trika series will continue next Tuesday with the goddess Apara. And next Friday will be our monthly Yoga Nidra meditation and Devi Puja. If anybody is watching who is at Dark Goddess Festival on Sunday, what you'll be seeing is a somewhat more expanded class and ritual to the one you saw as the opening ceremony for that festival. So again, welcome and namaste. So to begin, triads of goddesses are really an occurrence in many of the world's pantheons, from the three fates of Greek mythology to the three faces of the Greco-Roman goddess Hecate, the Norns of the Norse sagas, and then when we go eastwards to Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, the powers of creation, maintenance, and destruction, personified by the goddesses Sarasvati, Lakshmi, and Parvati. And there are forms of Parvati, Durga, and Kali. So other triads of Hindu based philosophy include the three subtle bodies: the gross body, the actual material body itself, the subtle body, which is the surrounding energy field, and the causal body, which links us to the spiritual and to the divine. There are the three states, or gunas: tamas, rajas, and sattvas. Then Ayurveda, there's the three doshas: vata, kapha, and pitta. And also three primary states of consciousness: the waking state of consciousness, dreaming sleep, and dreamless sleep. So go back about 1,000 years, and in the philosophy of non-dual Shaiva Tantra, which originated in what is now the state of Kashmir, beginning around the 5th century of the Common Era, there are three powers, also three functions of the divine. One is called, and they are Shaktis, or energies. There is Icha Shakti, the power of the will; Jnana Shakti, the power of knowing or knowledge; and Kriya Shakti, the power of action. And one way to think of this is how ideas manifest. So Icha Shakti, the power of will, that's when an idea first begins to congeal in your mind. Jnana Shakti, you would be planning out the stages of manifesting that idea based on things you already know, maybe gaining further knowledge to make that a reality. And then Kriya Shakti would be the actual work, the physical work that would be done to manifest the idea, and also the idea's effects on this material plane. So in the Trika lineage of non-dual Shaiva Tantra, the three Shaktis are represented by three goddesses. And I'm going to show you a picture here. So, this a little bit closer. So, in the center is the white goddess Pada. And then on her left and right, two very Kali-like goddesses. On one side, the red goddess Pada, and then on her left side would be Apada. So Pada represents the power of Icha Shakti, Pada, the red goddess, the goddess of Jnana Shakti, knowledge, and then Kriya Shakti is the black goddess, Apara. And so tonight we will honor Ma Apada, who we see in this picture here. So let me just make a little adjustment here. So these three goddesses are regarded as aspects of Ma Kali in the role of the supreme divine feminine. So in Trika philosophy, flourished from the 9th through the 12th centuries of the Common Era. And within this philosophy, there is also a fourth principle, the underlying force, really the three forces of Icha, Jnana, and Kriya Shakti combined. And that'll be the goddess that we'll honor in the fourth installment of this series. And that is Kali, Kalas, and Karshini, whose name means Kali of time, who transmits knowledge. And she personifies the all-consuming powers of awareness which underlie the processes of will, knowing, and action, also creation, stasis, and destruction. So Apara is also known as the destroyer of the pains of the humble. Her skin is black, her mouth wide open, bearing long fangs, and her face holds an expression of rage. She also wears a large snake, symbolic of the rising of Kundalini energy. And then we're going to talk about some of the other instruments that she's holding and what she's wearing as well, and what that symbolizes. Her voice is thunderous, and she's pictured holding these different instruments that I'm going to show you, and we're going to place on our altar surface before our puja. So, as the mistress of Kriya Shakti, her energies are forces behind the actual work required for ideas to manifest, as I mentioned before, and the overall effects produced by their manifestation. In opposite to Pada and Apada, some other things that she also represents is Ida Nadi, the lunar channel on the left side of the body. In terms of the breath, she's associated with the inhalation. Ida Nadi carries the more passive, receptive, pranic energy, sometimes viewed as a feminine energy. And Apada, like Kali, as we know today, personifies the forces that bring us into this world, the power of Eros, and the powers that call us home when our time has come, Thanatos. She is survival against extinction in the progress of evolution. So to say a little bit more about Ma Apada, the names of the three goddesses, Pada means the Most High. Pada means the second most, and Apara means the least high. So she really is the goddess of the spiritual plane, and of the earthly plane. So the three goddesses represent a progression from the material to the spiritual, with Pada in between, and the highest level being Pada. But Apara is really the divine that exists within the material. And these three goddesses also represent states of mood and states of consciousness. And so those times in our life when we're at our most low, that would be the realm of Apada. And that's usually when we embark upon some kind of spiritual path, some kind of spiritual quest. And so Apara, just like Kali is the first of the Mahavidyas, the great wisdom goddesses, so Apara represents just the beginnings that we take in trying to rise up above these maybe depressed states or sad states or frightened states that we might be in. So the images that are held by Apada include a staff called a Khatvanga. And at the top of this staff, there are three heads. One that is freshly cut, a second that's in a state of decomposition, and then the third on the top, which is skeletonized. And so this is the process of letting go of attachments that no longer serve us. And then the Khatvanga staff itself also represents facing change with courage and a sense of mastery, not with fear. So we'll place the skull staff upon our altar. She bears a sword like Kali, also known as a Khadga. And this is for slaying our inner demons, those thoughts really that hold us back and keep us from really living our true potentials. The trident is another of her instruments, and the trident represents all of these different triads which I mentioned: creation, preservation, and destruction, for example, Icha Shakti, Jnana Shakti, and Kriya Shakti. In fact, the three goddesses of the Trika are often pictured as sitting atop Shiva's trident. And that trident is also within us, the three main energy channels. So Ida Nadi, the feminine or lunar channel on the left, Pingala Nadi, the solar or more masculine or more dynamic channel on the right, and then Shushumna Nadi, the central channel going through the center of the spinal column. And this is the channel which during meditation, Kundalini rises. And so in the triad of the breath of these three goddesses, I mentioned that Apada is associated with inhalation, Pada with exhalation, and then Pada with the central channel represents the pauses in between inhalation and exhalation, the breath being the oldest and the most powerful of mantras. And we do the fourth installment of our series. We'll be doing a breathwork meditation from the Vijnan Bhairava Tantra, which is one of the few remaining scriptures of the Trika lineage. The Trika lineage is an extinct lineage, but it still is very strong influence on tantric lineages being practiced to this day. So we'll add the trident to our altar, and I'm actually, you may notice, between these three instruments, I'm making a triangle, the yantra sign of the divine feminine. So Apada also holds a little hand drum known as a damaru, and this represents the progression of time and the expansive vibration of creation. She holds a skull cup, or kapala, and this represents the transformation of consciousness. And on our altar here, this skull is, which holds our brazier for charcoal, will represent that instrument. She holds a flaying blade called a kartika, and the kartika is used in sky burial to cut the body apart so that scavengers can eat of the flesh. So this would be high up in the Himalayas, where cremation isn't necessarily very feasible. And this represents the cutting away of attachments. I mentioned that in her mouth, she has this fierce expression and teeth, fangs. Sometimes aspects of Kali have the tusk of a boar. And so wild boars, dogs, especially wild dogs like jackals, cats, these are all cremation ground scavengers. And again, this is part of dissolving these attachments that are holding us back. The boar's tusk is also significant because this represents the forces that shaped the early earth, the surface of the earth, and are still shaping it today. So those geological forces that create the landscape that we see. And she wears a necklace of skulls. And I mentioned how the sword is cutting away those inner demons, those thoughts that are really those thoughts that are holding us back. And so those heads, those skulls, which represent those thoughts, become her trophies. And typically, the number of skulls that the Divine Mother wears is 50. And this represents the letters of the Sanskrit alphabet. So this is an association with the power of the word and also the power of mantra. And I want to say something about Apada's mantra, and really the mantras of the Trika goddesses, and really a major reason why I'm sharing this information with you. So roughly 1,000 years ago, toward the end of the 10th century, the beginning of the 11th, the sage Abhinavagupta penned an encyclopedic work of multi-volumes called Tantraloka, which means light on the Tantras. And the first half of it was describing the nature of the universe, and the second half of it really a ritual manual. And in the 30th chapter of this scriptural volume, it discusses the use of mantras in meditative and devotional practice. And Abhinavagupta wrote of a simplified form of tantric initiation into the Trika path, where the student would be empowered with the three wisdom goddesses' mantras, which were regarded as so powerful that their daily recitation would serve as a substitute for a more traditional initiation ceremony. In other words, what's really being described here is a rite of self-initiation where a guru is not necessary. the recitation of these mantras will bring the universal knowledge that one needs and will empower somebody with those forces of Icha Shakti, Jnana Shakti, and Kriya Shakti. And so when you look at the description of this evening's program, you'll see Apada's mantra. And Apada's mantra is Hrih, Phat. So for Apara, the action principle, Hrih, Phat. Hrih, spelled H-R-I-H, at least in English, is related to the goddess-centered syllable Hrim, and this is the seed syllable or Bij mantra for the Divine Mother in all of her aspects. The mantra Hum, spelled either H-U-M or H-O-O-M, is associated with the Divine Mother's power of protection, in addition to purification and transformation. And then the seed mantra Phat is very often associated with the mantras of the wrathful deities. The deities like Apara, who seem rather fearsome in appearance at first, but that's really an illusion. It really represents our need to get past or to let go of our fears, and then we see the true being of compassion that this goddess actually is. The word Phat means something like crack or boom, and it's like those inner demons just being dissolved. So Apara bears a lot of similarities to another tantric goddess who I'll reach for an image of here, Ma Bhairavi. And Bhairavi is the goddess of the cremation ground. And she will sit upon the cremation ground, sometimes performing very strange rites, sometimes maybe frightening rites, or some people would see it as that way. And she will share her wisdom with anybody who is willing to listen, who is willing to let go of their fears, especially the greatest fear of all, which is the fear of death. The fear of death translates in us to the fear of really all forms of change. And it really comes from our primeval survival instinct. And because we tend to fear change, we worry that, what will happen if this change happens? At least the way things are predictable. This is why people stay in unfulfilling careers or unhealthy relationships, or just don't have the courage to spread their wings and express their full potentials. Each of the three Kriya goddesses are sitting upon a form of Lord Shiva. These are different forms of the wrathful form of Shiva, which is Bhairab, also known as Mahakala, the great force of time. And again, this is a representation of getting beyond our fears. The form of Lord Bhairab that Apada sits upon is Navatma, and that means the Bhairab, or the wrathful Shiva of 9 forms. And 9 is a very transitional number in itself. Think of 9 months gestation period, for example. So we're going to do our puja and a short meditation, and then I'll say a little bit more about Ma Apada, some of the things that she might be called upon for, some more of her associations, and also a little bit about ways in which you might use this mantra in your own spiritual development. So, as usual, I invite you to find a comfortable seat where your back can be straight and your breath can be full. I invite you to close your eyes and breathe deeply. Completely filling and emptying the lungs and taking part in that earliest, that oldest, that most powerful of mantras, the breath. Breathing in the energy of Apada, the creative principle. Breathing out the energies of Apada, the power of action. And also being aware of those slight pauses in between the inhalation and the exhalation, which is Apada herself, a divine, feminine spirit that is found in all things. With Apada, there is the power of letting go. So with each exhalation, allow yourself to let go of the cares of the day and the worries and the anxieties of the past and the future. So as we do this work, you can rest in the awareness of the present moment. And focusing on your heart center. I invite you now to think of something in your life that you're ready to let go of at this time. Something that's maybe holding you back or something that's no longer useful for you. Something that's ready to be shed away like the leaves on the trees right now in this fall season. And take a moment and ask for Apada's assistance in letting that go. And so I invite you now to bring the palms of your hands together at your heart center. And we'll begin this practice tonight by chanting the syllable Hrih 3 times. Inhale. Jema. Om Pavitra Pavitrova Sarvavastam Gatopiva Yashmare Pandarikaksham Sabhyabhyanta Sushi. Om Pavitra Pavitrova Sarvavastam Gatopiva Yashmare Pandarikaksham Sabhyabhyanta Sushi. Om Pavitra Pavitrova Sarvavastam Gatopiva Yashmare Pandarikaksham Sabhyabhyanta Sushi. Om Shuklam Bharadhanam Vishnum Zishivanam Shutobhijam Prasannavananam Dayat Sarva Vignopasantaye. Jai Ganesha. Om Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshvara Guru Sakshat Padam Brahma Tasmai Sri Guruve Namah. Jai Guru. Om Triambakam Yajamaye Sagandim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukameva Bandhanan Mrityor Mukshyamamritat. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Jayanti Mangalakali Bhadrakali Kapalini Durga Shama Shivadatri Svasvada Namostute Jayatvam Devi Chamunde Jaya Bhutita Harini Jaya Sarvagate Devi Kalaratri Namostute. Jai Ma Kali. Om Sri Padadevi Namah. Om Sri Padadevi Namah. Om Sri Apadadevi Namah. Jai Ma. Om Aing Rim Klim Chamundaye Viche. 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 Jai Ma Pada Devi. Devi prapanote hare prasida. Prasida matara jagata kilasya. Prasida vishvesvara pe vishvam. Tvameshwara Devi chachara charasya. Om Agni Jyotir Jyotiagnir Svaha. Agni Jyotir Jyotiagnir Svaha. Agni Jyotir Jyotiagnir Svaha. So we're going to repeat Ma Apada's mantra, Hrih Phat, as I give offerings to the fire. I invite you to chant along with me, or you can just meditate quietly and just let the energies of the mantra take your consciousness to where it needs to be. Hrih Phat. 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 Apada Devya Namah. I invite you to close your eyes and breathe deeply. meditating upon the energies generated by our mantra. Feel it around you, giving you protection, giving you strength, rising, helping you to rise up beyond the depths of your of sadness, of depression, of anxiety, guiding you on the path that is ahead, teaching you wisdom, opening your eyes, helping you to receive the truth, so that you may be a channel of the Divine Mother's energies. But breathe, absorbing the energy. And feeling its transformative power. And as you meditate, I invite you to listen to the words of the sage Abhinavagupta, a bound soul who has any of these convictions: I am dense, I am inert matter, or I am completely bound by my karma, or I am impure, or I am the pawn of others. They may seek to attain the steady conviction of the opposite of these views. If one succeeds in this, he or she immediately becomes master, whose body is the whole universe, and whose soul is pure consciousness. In whatever manner such a conviction may be attained, a tantric yogi should cultivate it at all times. The yogi should not allow his or her perspective to become divorced from the real nature of things, and thus be led into doubt by the mass of foolish teachings that exist in this world. Jai Ma, Apada Devi. Jai Ma, Apada Devi. Jai Ma, Apada Devi Nama. I invite you now to take a deep and clearing breath, listening to our benedictions. Om Sava Mangala Mangalye Shiva Svada Sadike Saranye Trambake Devi Naryane Namostute. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Sana Bhavatu Sana Bunaktu Saviryam Kadavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu Ma Vidvidyavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat Om. Jai Ganesha. Jai Guru. Om Namah Shivaya. Jai Ma Kali. Jai Ma Apada Devi. Jai Mata Di. Jai Mata Di. Jai Mata Di. I invite you to slowly open your eyes, bringing your hands together at heart center. And namaste. Share a little more information. So for Apada Devi, she's associated with destruction, but remember that destruction is always followed by renewal. Whenever something falls apart, it turns into something else. She can be called upon for protection, for removing blockages, removing habits, old patterns that no longer work for us anymore. She can help us to surrender to a higher power. She's associated with protection and survival, overcoming fears, issues around sexuality, and of course with the breath, the inhalation. For the chakras, she's the three lowest chakras: Muladhara at the roots, Svadhisthana in the lower abdomen, and Manipura in the solar plexus. Ida Nadi, the energy channel on the left side. Rudra Granthi, the knots or muscle tensions of the lower abdomen and the release of those tensions and the emotions that may come with those. Tamas Guna, the most earthly or material state of the Shaktis. Of course, she's Kriya Shakti, the power of action. Of the subtle bodies, she's the gross body, the material shell that we inhabit. And in terms of practices, she's associated with physical asana. And in Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, the chapter on asana is really all just about being able to sit comfortably for meditation with a straight back. It can be done on the floor like I am, maybe with a cushion supporting the hips. Or if that doesn't work for you, it can even be sitting in a favorite straight back chair. So in terms of using her mantra and the other Trika mantras, I always find that doing a 40-day process with the mantra is very powerful. Maybe taking some time for meditation, taking a mala of 108 beads, doing 108 repetitions, maybe a little personal puja along with that. But then also throughout the day, as you think about it, reciting the mantra silently to yourself, and then just be aware of the effects of it. Insights, maybe finding yourself handling situations a little bit differently than you might have before, maybe in a little more balanced nature. Maybe you come to the realization about how to handle certain important things for your life. Maybe certain things you are aware of are ready to be let go of, and that process is much easier. Maybe the right book falls in your hand, or the right teacher who can share something with you comes into your life, or just some new opportunity arises as well. Keeping a journal when you do a mantra process is very powerful too. When I first worked with these three mantras, I did a 40-day process with all three, and that's certainly an option, doing 108 rounds of all three and thinking about those mantras through the day. But I think maybe starting out with Apara, the most earthly, and then doing another process with Apada would be very powerful. And then finally for Pada at the end. And then I'll share with you a very powerful meditation for Kala Sankarshini, Kali, the union or the mixture of all three. And she's also known as Mahakali, the great Kali. So I encourage you to try these mantras as you learn them. And also, please feel free to share with me your experiences. You can message me at my channel or email me at the temple, omcdevi@gmail.com. That's AUMCDEVI @gmail.com. Also, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. So once again, I want to thank everybody who's joined me this evening, both online and in person. And have a wonderful rest of the week. I look forward to you joining me Friday for our sadhana for the second of the 12 Kalis, Rakta Kali, the red Kali, the preserver. So until then, namaste, blessings always, and Jai Mata Di, and good night.